Welcome to KMET 1490 AM ABC News Radio and the Southern California Business Report with Yvette Walker, a show dedicated to highlighting successful Southern California businesses and the people behind them.
Welcome and thank you for joining Southern California Business Report on ABC News and Talks, KMET 1490 AM, 98.1 FM, and KMET TV. I'm Yvette Walker, live blasting our signal from the center of Southern California, serving a population of over 25 million. Get us crystal clear and on demand by downloading the free live streaming app on Google Play and the Apple App Store. As always, a huge shout out to the team, Mitch, Bill, and Sean. I love you guys. And to our special advisory committee that can be found at www.scbrtalk.com/advisory committee. Go online, check them out, and learn about what these leaders are doing in our region today. All right, everybody, I have the distinct pleasure to introduce Malik Mallory. He is a seasoned financial professional with a strong track record of success in the industry. His journey began in 2017 when he started as an administrative assistant. Over the years, he diligently built his book of clients at his prior firm and subsequently took the bold step of starting his own firm, Mallory Wealth Management. Malik holds a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration with a minor in accounting, as well as a Master's of Business Administration from the University of Phoenix. His educational background complements his extensive practical experience. During his tenure at his prior firm, Malik earned numerous awards for his exceptional work. However, his most significant accomplishment is owning and operating his own financial advisory firm where he serves as president. Beyond his professional achievement, Malik is deeply committed to his community. He serves on the board of Hope Through Housing and is a valued member of the Lincoln Club. In his spare time, Malik enjoys playing fantasy football and following sports. Mallory Wealth Management is on a mission to provide customized financial guidance to those undergoing significant life transitions. The firm prioritizes honesty, transparency, and always acting in the best interest of clients. Malik and his team are dedicated to building long-term relationships based on trust and mutual respect. They empower clients to make informed financial decisions aimed at providing financial security and confidence. Thank you so much for being with us here today, Malik.
Of course. Thank you for having me. And that was quite the tongue twister of a bio, so appreciate that.
It was great. But thank you so much, Malik. And as we start the new year, it's perfect to, kind of get our financial hygiene in order, so to speak, right? After the holidays and Christmas spending and, starting into the new year, this is the perfect topic to reacquaint ourselves with the financial do's and don'ts, so to speak. And as you know, one of my first questions I ask every one of my guests is to talk about what inspired you to pursue a career in the financial services and management industry and now becoming president of Mallory Wealth Management.
Yeah, so back in high school, we're going to start there. So back in high school, I had a unique opportunity to be a part of a program called Business Academy, where we ran a virtual business. And within there, I was the senior banker. So I was collecting the monies, paying the dues, and I thought to myself, wow, this is great. This is amazing. And of course, I learned about taxes before everyone else did because I had to pay virtual taxes. So I then went on to college, got my degree in accounting. And while I was there, I joined the fraternity, was president of my fraternity, treasurer of the fraternity, as well as a resident assistant. So I was one of the folks that was in charge of housing. And I really found a great sense of belonging there, right? I was really able to help people through a lot of challenges at that time. And I was extremely happy to do so. And so I graduate college, I go to work for a Fortune 500 company, railroad company. And, I started to find myself, kind of slumping and wasn't really finding myself in that position where I wanted to be. And I ended up spending the day with one of my other fraternity brothers who had his own practice. And, I figured this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And, it's been going since 2017, been really enjoying the process, really enjoying the journey. And what keeps me motivated, of course, my beautiful wife Shelby, my daughter Alessi, and my soon to be child that's going to come out here mid year. But again, it's really to watch people accomplish those financial goals, because of course, money isn't everything, but it allows us, and it's a tool that allows us to do things, right, to experience things, to go on trips, to be charitable, right. So that's really been satisfying as time has been progressing, and as I continue to operate my business.
I love it. So, Malik, please talk about the role of a financial advisor and the different type of services that are provided to clients.
Yeah, so there's plenty of people that call themselves financial advisors, plenty of firms that are out there. I could tell you my role is to effectively be your financial director or your personal CFO, right? So again, it's to effectively and ultimately find out how much money is enough for you to accomplish whatever goal that you want to accomplish, right? Because again, we all want to make as much money as possible, right? And I'm sure everyone's is nodding their head and agreeing with that. But at the end of the day, really, it's how much do we need to accomplish those goals, to be charitable, to maintain the lifestyle that you have, to buy that next property, to manage that investment property, right? So really, we sit down and fine tune these details with clients, and of course, make sure that not only are we managing these investments, but we're also transferring them in the most tax efficient way and paying the IRS what you owe and never leaving a tip, right? Because at the end of the day, we all have to pay taxes, but there are some strategies out there that you can ultimately pay the IRS less than what you would have normally have should you have not set yourself up correctly.
Right. And so we're going to go into one of those mystery questions, right? Compound interest, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about the concept of compound interest and how it affects investment growth over time.
Sure. So, I mean, I'll just keep it very simple, right? So we have simple interest, and let's just say we have a 5-day period, and you put $1 in this account, and you have simple interest on it. So on that $1, you earn 100%, and it just compounds and simple. So you earn 100% of that dollar over the next 5 days. So you have $1, then that $1 turns into $2, then to 3, then to 4, and then to 5, right? But if you have compounding interest, what happens is your money makes money on your money. So you'll have that $1 that'll turn to $2, then you get 100% of $2. So $2 turns to $4, then $4 to $8, then $8 to 16, so on and so forth. So at the end of 5 days, right, in that specific example, you would either end up with $5 on simple interest, or you'd have $16 at the end of compounding interest, right? So that's effectively the concept there. And I know at the end of the day, I'd much rather have that $16.
Right. I think I like compound interest a lot more than simple interest. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So let's talk about how one can determine, risk tolerance and create an investment portfolio. Because, if you don't have one already, it's kind of like an unknown. Is there a good rule of thumb? What is the overview on that?
Sure. So there's plenty of tools that you can access that are out there on the internet. Simply, if you Google the word risk tolerance. Shameless plug for myself on MalloryWealthManagement.com. I do have a button on there under the Work With Us banner there. And it says, "What's your risk number?" So you can click that, and you can actually go through our risk tolerance questionnaire, and you'll get a risk number after that. And effectively, what that risk tolerance measures is your aptitude or your appetite for risk. Right? Are you willing to see your money fluctuate, and if so, by how much? Right. So some people can withstand the large fluctuations while others can't. And of course, that's all on the personal side of things. Right. So that's effectively what the risk tolerance is. I know we got a few, we're going to lead into a few other things. So I'll leave it at that for that one.
Right. So, and of course, something that we should all be thinking about, and maybe not all contributing to as we should, but let's talk about key factors when considering how to choose between different types of retirement accounts. What do we need to take into consideration when selecting?
Yeah. So of course, if you're working, working for someone or at a company, they more than likely have some sort of retirement account there. And of course, if there is a match there, right, that is to incentivize you to add at least that matching percentage. But in general, right, you have accounts where you can put in pre-tax money and accounts where you can put in post-tax money. So pre-tax money, if we're talking about IRAs here, would be like a traditional IRA. And that those dollars will effectively be treated as such. So you would get paid, right? Let's just say you get paid $10, and then $1 goes into the traditional IRA, and then the taxes come out, and then you're left with, let's just keep it simple, actually, and just say $9. So now you have $9, and that's what your reportable income will be for the year. So in a traditional IRA, the benefit of that is, of course, you defer your taxes to future years, and you lower your current taxable income for this year. And then, of course, you have the Roth side where you'll get paid, your $10, then you'll get your taxes out. And then let's just say after taxes, you have $8 left. You can put that $8 into the Roth side of things. And those dollars actually grow tax free since you already paid the taxes on them. So kind of the pro and con to that is, of course, you have to pay your taxes, associated with your income for the year. But if you grow that $8 into $500,000 million, right, and an unbelievable number at the end of 59 and a half, or whenever you're ready to take that money out, all that money you can take out tax free, so you don't have to pay taxes on that, right? So again, which accounts should you use? It mainly depends on your particular situation, but those are effectively, in general, the pros and cons associated with both the traditional side, again, where you're putting in pre-tax money, and the Roth side, where you're putting in post-tax money.
Wow. Okay. So let's talk about the pros and cons of investing in stocks versus bonds.
Perfect. So stocks will mainly be a lot more volatile, but historically and statistically, they have typically outpaced inflation. So again, we'll talk about that later too. But stocks, they go up and they go down a lot more than, I should say, typically a lot more than what bonds do. Bonds are more so a conservative approach. They won't fluctuate as much. They'll generate you a little bit more income, but the stock side is really where you can be more so aggressive. You have a lot more volatility, which leads to a potential of, of course, higher returns. So higher the risk, higher the reward is effectively it.
Are there certain stocks or certain bonds that are more, secure or more low risk for people that are looking to explore those different investment opportunities?
Sure. So in the investment world, nothing is guaranteed, right? There's never a safe investment because all investments carry risk. I mean, even when you put your money into your bank account, you're effectively safely losing money on those funds, right? Because it'll erode away with inflation. So there's risk in investing. There's risk in not investing. Ultimately, it just depends on your risk tolerance, time horizon, your financial goals. So again, I can't necessarily say, these things are guaranteed or these things will make you money. But what I can say is, with the correct allocation in time, right, you can definitely and more than likely accomplish your financial goals. And, and sometimes you might have to adjust those financial goals too, kind of depending on, whether life throws some punches at you or not.
Right. And so when a client comes in and you're consulting with them, what are some of the major questions they have for you about stocks versus bonds?
Yeah. So again, really, when they ask, a lot of the times it's, "Hey, Malik, I want to invest in X stock, X the variable, not the company, or XYZ stock," right?
Right.
Um, and we effectively just have a conversation around, okay, let's take a step back. What are you ultimately looking to accomplish? How long do we have to accomplish this? And then from there, we can dive into particular stocks should they want to. But for really what I'd like to focus on is a portfolio allocation that will make sure that we're within their risk tolerance, their time horizon, and they're able to accomplish that goal moving forward.
So let's talk about those ways to diversify an investment portfolio to minimize risk. What does that look like?
Sure. So typically you just have a specific allocation in stocks or equities and a specific allocation in bonds or fixed income. You can dive, as deep as how much in large cap, mid cap, small cap, how much in high yield bonds, how much in muni bonds, how much in corporate bonds, right? You can get that specific and even break it down per each sector. But typically, what I've seen in general, what happens is when people are working and they are in their accumulation phase, that is typically when people are more aggressive. And then as they start to get to the later years, or at least closer to that retirement date, whatever date they set for themselves, is when they become a little bit more conservative. Now, typically, right, the higher the allocation in stocks, the more volatile the portfolio. And then the higher the allocation in bonds, right, the more conservative the portfolio. So what happens is over time, people kind of drag it down to a little bit more conservative, meaning they typically hold a little bit more bonds than they typically started off with, to make sure that they accumulate all this money, but they got to make sure they maintain it, right? So that's effectively how we would mitigate risk. Again, it's mitigating risk. It's not getting rid of risk, because, like I said before, there's risk in everything that's done in the investment world. But the goal is, while using diversification, while using portfolio allocations, it's to minimize as much risk as possible. And again, right, how much we hold in bonds or stocks, that kind of depends on what the goal is, how much time we have, right? So in general, that's how it works.
Right. So, you know, are there any specific tax saving strategies or investment vehicles that you recommend for individuals in different income brackets?
Yeah. So again, I can't. I'm not going to recommend any type. That would, if you want my recommendation, of course, you'd have to call in. We can schedule one-on-one. But what I will say again is, the traditional side, if you're putting pre-tax dollars in, you're currently lowering your taxable income. And then, of course, if you're doing post-tax, you're not necessarily worried about your current taxable income for this year, and you're more so focused on that tax-free money in the future.
Right. So can you tell us about some of those vehicles that are available? For instance,
Sure.
the education, the 529 accounts. Let's talk about that. And then other ones that you can share as well.
Sure. Yeah. So you could think about different accounts as different buckets. Each bucket might have different functions and I guess capabilities, right? So again, at the company level, you're going to have your 401k, 457s, 403bs. All those are company related accounts for the participant, meaning you or whoever that person is that's joining that plan. Then you have traditional IRAs, you have Roth IRAs, right? And the traditional IRAs, the 401ks, the 403bs, the 457s, those are typically pre-tax. Some of those do have Roth options in there, so that'd be that post-tax or that after-tax dollars where you can put those in. And again, that would go with Roth IRAs, Roth 403bs, Roth 401ks. Like I said, there may be a Roth option in that 457. And of course, you have education accounts, and there's different strategies that you can use. But just like you brought up, you have a 529 account as well that you can use.
Please talk about how that 529 account works, because I have 3 kids, they all have them, and I absolutely love it. Please expand on that and enlighten maybe some parents that are not familiar with the 529.
Sure. So some of the tax laws are different per state, so I can't dive too far into specifics. But what I can say is 529s are generally used to pay for qualified education expenses. Those qualified education expenses are determined, when you do your taxes. But effectively, you put your money into the 529. You need to pay for tuition, right? So you put $1 into a 529. Let's just say it grows to, $100,000. Well, now you have $100,000 in that account to pay for those qualified education expenses. So you can pay for tuition, room and board, things of that nature, and you don't have to pay capital gains taxes on the money that's made, as long as it goes towards qualified education expenses. So those are a great tool that people have used. And like I said, there's also other strategies, such as, if you're of age, there's a Roth IRA component where, of course, you can take that money out tax free. So some folks use that to pay for education if they're at the age 59 and a half, or if they have an exemption associated with that. And then also people are using custodian accounts, meaning, I would open an account for my daughter, as an example, and I would direct those funds. And as you buy and sell, there's tax implications along the way every year. So there's no tax advantage for that. But those funds don't necessarily have to be used for college. They can be used for other things. But normally at whatever age you set it at, could be 18, 19, 20, 21, whatever the case may be, that minor would then take over the account and have free reign over those funds to do what they need to do with them.
So can you just expand on those 529 accounts in terms of whether or not they gain interest over the years?
Sure, yeah. So in a 529, you're effectively investing in mutual funds. And again, you're investing in the market is effectively it. So depending on your allocation, you'll experience growth, or of course, like I said, depending on your allocation, you'll experience minor growth, but you'll have the safety and comfort of knowing that your money's not as volatile as it would have been in the market.
Right. And that's what I love about the 529 is that it can be applied to education, and education could look like room and board. It can look like traveling. So let's say my daughter Sophia wants to take a culinary class in Italy or in France. She can pay for those expenses too. Am I right?
So there's like I said, it's qualified education expenses. That's in the IRS code. So again, right, it's in the IRS code. So when you do your taxes and you show up with that disbursement from your 529, and you tell your tax preparer, hey, I used the funds for XYZ, that is then when it will be determined whether that's a qualified education expense or not. But on the IRS website, there is guidelines associated with what a qualified education expense would be.
Right. So it has to be attached, I'm guessing, and I'm assuming, to an educational institution, some type of curriculum, credits, and so forth.
No, normally, and that's usually what the guidelines have on there.
Right. Okay, perfect. So now let's talk about the difference between active and passive investing, and who qualifies for what? Who is best suited for either passive or active investing?
Sure. So again, I can't speak to who's qualified for it, but what I can say is active management is more so, you're actively managing your investments. So you're buying, selling, and the goal is to try to beat the indexes or to beat the market or whatever you're trying to beat. Right. More where the passive style is, you might invest into a particular index and let that ride and let the market do what it does. And that's pretty much the difference between both of them there.
Right. And so active investing is more like when I think of that, I'm thinking day trading. And for a while there, that was a very hot field to be in. How does that look like today?
Sure. So on my side of the fence, right, you have actively managed funds where they are trying to, portfolio managers are trying to beat whatever indices or whatever benchmark they have. So that's mainly where I see it, and sometimes there is a component of day trading in that, but for the most part, in those actively managed funds, there's a guideline or guidance that they have associated with it as far as how much weight they can hold in one particular fund or things of that nature. Whereas the passive side, right, if the index holds XYZ stock at 2%, then the index will hold XYZ stock at 2%, right? So that, like I said, that's pretty much the main difference there.
And I'm guessing that active and passive investing is also going to be attributed to the risk tolerance of the investor and where they are in the stage of their life. Um,
Absolutely.
can you talk about how that looks or what that trend looks like?
So there are funds out there that are pretty good at what they do, right? And again, they have goals and guidances that they need to keep part of. And again, if you want to look up a particular fund, you can always, Google, XYZ fund and take a look. And on their fund fact sheet, it'll have everything on there for you. But again, more so on the passive side, right? I like to use passive, but I also like to have a little bit of active in there to, of course, try to increase a little bit more alpha or increase, the potential for return. But again, it's derived from the risk tolerance, the time horizon, and of course, what the client is actually looking for.
What are clients usually looking for when they come to see you?
Yeah. So clients are typically looking for, how to accomplish their financial goals, right? They want to retire at 65. We work backwards. Hey, this is how much I need. This is what your lifestyle will encompass. And of course, right, we got to take into account inflation. So we have those factors to consider. So it's really that one question can lead to a multitude of things.
All right, and we're going to pick up the conversation after the break. Everybody, Yvette Walker here with ABC News and Talk, Southern California Business Report, here today with Malik Mallory, president of Mallory Wealth Management. He is here discussing essential financial strategies to achieve financial stability and success while emphasizing the importance of budgeting, diversified investments, monitoring credit scores, and developing good saving habits. When we return.
Hi, I'm Dana Rademacher with MGR Property Management.
A lot of people wonder about the value that property management has for their property. Property management can include all property types, including residential, commercial, and HOA. It is valuable because property managers are experienced in what can happen at your property. We're aware of liabilities. We're able to do predictive and preventative maintenance. We know what is coming up with the changes in the weather, the seasons, how old certain aspects or different capital projects at your property are. We're able to best negotiate contract pricing, legalities with your tenants, and anything else that you may need to ensure that you're getting the full value of your property. If you're interested in speaking with the representative at MGR Property Management regarding your property management needs, you can visit our website at mgrrealestate.com, or you can call our number at area code 909-581-6600 to be connected with the representative.
Ontario International Airport is onto a better way to fly with over 65 daily nonstop flights to more than 20 major destinations and the easiest airport experience in Southern California. Visit flyonto.com/Ontario to learn more about Ontario International Airport today.
Hi, I'm San Bernardino County Sheriff Shannon Dykes. If you're looking to start an exciting career in law enforcement and make a difference in your community, we are hiring dispatchers, nurses, deputies, laterals, and many more. For a complete list of our jobs and more information, visit sheriffsjobs.com.
The University of La Verne is rated first in California for alumni satisfaction. Learn more about accelerated programs offered online and on campus in La Verne, Irvine, Ontario, Burbank, or College of the Canyons. Visit go.laverne.edu. The University of La Verne. go.laverne.edu.
Cal State San Bernardino is home to the only School of Entrepreneurship in California. With globally ranked degree programs, you can start your journey today to become a successful entrepreneur. Learn more and connect at entre.csusb.edu.
We are the Empire Strikers, the professional sports team of the Inland Empire. We are a fast-actioned and community-inspired pro indoor soccer team. Our mission is to inspire the Empire. Home games, community events, watch parties, and youth camps are all back. Professional indoor soccer is back. Join us and come watch the greatest show on turf at Toyota Arena or on Twitch. Visit www.theempirestrikers.com for more and any information.
Welcome back, everyone. Yvette Walker with ABC News and Talk, Southern California Business Report, here today with Malik Mallory, president of Mallory Wealth Management, discussing essential financial strategies to achieve financial stability and success while emphasizing the importance of budgeting, diversified investments, monitoring credit scores, and developing good saving habits. Thank you again for being with us here today, Malik.
Of course. And thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So prior to the break, we were talking about, financial 101, active and passive investing, aggressive versus more, controlled. let's talk about some of the more common investment mistakes to avoid, especially for beginners.
Yeah, so one big common one that I often hear is, or I should say, one line that I often hear is, back in 2008, I lost everything.
Mm.
And I say, why? How did that happen? Tell me more. And the market went down, and I sold because I was scared,
Mm.
right? And that's a very common mistake that investors make. Period, is the emotional aspect of it. Unfortunately, money doesn't care whether you're happy, sad, scared, excited. So we got to try to remove that piece from the investment topic. Now, again, I know that is challenging for some because when you see your money dip down, right, the first thing that happens, or maybe the first thing that might come to mind is, oh my God, my life savings, right? But if history does repeat itself, the market has come back. So um, that is probably the number one mistake that I see most investors make is getting emotional about it, or the second piece is diversification, right? So I've seen people come in and they have their whole retirement bucket invested in one company, and what that means is if that one company, you know, has bad publicity or goes out of business or something negative happens, well, there goes their whole life savings, right? So, so really, you want to focus on, where I should say, I like to focus with my clients on diversification, and then doing my best to, remove that emotional piece for them, and kind of be that pilot for them, right? If you're flying on an airplane, right, I'll be your captain, right?
Right. And it's so interesting that you do talk about bad publicity and how that impacts stocks, especially today when everything is so instant, instant information. It travels around the world 3 times before it, lands on your doorstep. And it's like, wow, okay. And it can really impact these, you know, investments tremendously. But when you look at the trends, what do they tend to look like, right? Because we have these peaks and valleys over time, over decades. And what does history say about that?
Sure. So, I mean, really, this year, if we look at their particulars, interest rates have, well, I should say last year and this year, interest rates have been a big topic. And then, of course, this year we are in an election year. So with interest rates, right, typically when the Fed rises interest rates, the cost of doing business goes up for all these companies. And of course, the cost of goods and everything goes up for us, the consumer, as well. So of course, when those rates rise, the cost of business goes up, and unfortunately, sometimes these businesses pass that cost on to us, the consumer, which is of course why our costs are going up. But what that also does is, of course, eats away at earnings, because if you think about it for yourself, you get paid if cost of things go up. At the end of the day, you have less in your pocket, right? So if you look at yourself as a business, it pretty much operates, the same way. And when interest rates go down, right, that's when we should see, hopefully, the cost of things go down. But that's always a hope and prayer. But usually that makes things a little bit more easy for us, of course, to borrow and lend money at a much lower rate, or borrow money at a much lower rate. So it makes things a little easier for us. So typically, when we have the rise of rates or the fall of rates, we do see a lot of activity within the stock market. And then, of course, with the election, right? So everyone likes the color green, right? Or if your kid's Sharpie on your dollar bills, right, then black and green. But it doesn't necessarily matter which political party's in power. They will find a way to have the market go up, and everyone will find a way to, of course, make money. When I say everyone, I'm referring to these businesses. So the main differences are policies, right? That may change, but of course, just like you and I, right? When things change in our life, we adjust what we need to do to continue on, continue to make a living, and that's exactly what these businesses do as well. But those are really the two main things that are coming up here and that have come up that I've been having a lot of conversations with my clients about, and again, just trying to remind them to stay the course and stick with the financial plan that we put together. And of course, if that plan changes, then we can make adjustments to the plan and thus make adjustments to the investments or the tools that we use or that we are using to accomplish that plan.
Right. You talked about inflation. Everybody has heard inflation, inflation, inflation since, 2020. What are some ways that we can protect ourselves against inflation?
Yeah. So historically and typically, the best way to I'm not going to say protect yourself, but the best way to outpace inflation is investing in stocks or equities. Um, Again, right? There's always risk in everything that you do. But again, if you have $100,000 in your bank account and you let that sit for 10 years, that $100,000 is still not going to buy you the same thing that it would have 10 years ago, right? So again, it's more so about managing your cash, putting together that budget, having that emergency fund, making sure that your money is invested in the right places for you to keep pace with inflation, to continue to live your lifestyle, and of course to keep with the financial plan, because that's ultimately what needs to happen in order for you to be successful.
Right. So you talked a little bit about the current, political economic landscape. Can you provide some insights on the potential impact on various investment sectors when you talk about, it's a political year, inflation? Talk about how that is going to be impacted.
Sure. So I'll just say broadly across the market, we're more than likely going to see volatility just because there's a little bit of uncertainty. Who's going to be president? Which party's going to be in power? That typically comes with a lot of volatility, meaning people are buying and selling. Of course, people are getting emotional about things and buying and selling based on the emotion of, oh, my president didn't win, or my president did win, or this political party's in power, or that political party's in power, right? So there usually comes a lot of volatility, but when things normalize and settle down, the market gets right back on track to whatever it was doing before. So again, in general, we will just see a lot of usually we see a lot of volatility around times of election years.
And so how long does that volatility last? Does it last, the middle of the year? Are we seeing it now? Is it more towards the voting, when you go to the ballot box? What does that look like?
Yvette, I wish I had that crystal ball.
Well, historically, let's talk about historically what that looks like.
I mean, what we're finding and seeing is that volatility, or at least these cycles of uncertainty, are becoming shorter and shorter, and that's simply because of the news cycle, right? And again, we have these things, right, where we get news all the time. And sorry, I'm holding up my phone in my hand for those who are just listening. Where we get news all the time, we get alerts, right, of things that are happening around the world with different companies. So a lot more information is being pushed to us, both good and bad. I would say with that information and because it's happening so quick and the news cycle is so fast, we have been seeing shorter time frames of volatility. However, right, I can't say that's what's going to happen in the future. But that's what we have been seeing with these magical devices in our hands we call cell phones.
So it's a blessing and a curse, right? Because
Absolutely.
They can come multiple, but they're short and brief, but they could also be in multiples, right?
Yeah, and too, right? You have all these apps that have come out there, right? All the investing apps where anyone can log in and get on and start buying investments. So it just adds a whole separate market to the investment world, which again might add to more volatility too, because if just like what we saw in the past with GameStop, someone said, hey, let's all buy GameStop, and then boom, all of a sudden everyone in all these accounts started doing so. So you have that happened because of information, because of technology advancements, right? So and it added a whole new separate segment to the market of those who want to just hop on the apps and buy whatever investments they choose to buy. So again, right, we have that segment. We have an older segment, or I should say a more seasoned segment. We have people who work with financial professionals. So there's a lot of guidance that's happening out there, a lot of information that's happening out there, which could potentially add to more volatility. But usually, what I like to say is when there's chaos, there's opportunity, right? So that's kind of something, that, like I said, has affected that time frame of that volatility. And again, sometimes volatility happens for no reason, right? Sometimes there's just a sell off just because there's a sell off. The stock market's kind of like dealing with someone that makes absolutely no sense, and you try to make sense of it.
So, with that said, are there rules of thumb? How can we analyze and evaluate the financial health and stability of a company before investing in its stocks?
Sure. So, again, right, you can actually reframe that question and say, hey, I have this friend that wants to open a business and run a business. How much money would they need from me to invest in them, right? Well, if that's the case, right, you're going to want to see your friends' bank accounts. You're going to want to know how much money they're earning. What's the cost of goods sold? What are they spending money on? What's the net, the revenue associated with that? The net income? How much are they pocketing? Right? Do they have other loans? Are they paying those other loans in a timely manner? What's the return on the money that they actually invested? And all these can be found, and again, I'm talking in general about, a friend, but if you look up a particular company on, one of the investment websites, you can more than likely find the financials associated with that. And there's all sorts of ratios that are out there that you can look at to compare, the businesses to other businesses within the same sector, outside of the same sector. And again, there's there's a whole bunch of investment philosophies that are out there. Normally you just want to stick with whatever and whatever you want to buy. And like I said, all those ratios can be combined, and people can take those ratios and make sense of buying an investment or make sense of not buying an investment. It just depends on what your guidance is and what your goals are. Excuse me. And you can use that information to do your best to make an informed decision when it does come time to purchasing a particular investment.
So, speaking of ratios, can you explain the concept of asset allocation and why it's important in investment planning?
Sure. So I'll just use equities or stocks and then fixed income or bonds in this particular situation here. But as I said before, right, stocks are a little bit more volatile when it does come to investing. So depending on what investment you buy, you could see your investment up 20% one day and down 20% the next, right? But that's part of being in the equity world or the stock world. The bond side, right? Typically you're not going to see that type of movement, but what you will get is some sort of income usually from that, right? So bonds typically have some sort of coupon rate to it. As an example, you might get 5.2% back from a particular bond, or 5, 10, whatever the case is, right? There's all sorts of fixed income that's out there. But bonds are typically used to generate income. Thus, the value of those bonds, again, typically don't fluctuate as much as stocks do. Now, again, I say typically because, last year was a little rough with the interest rates rising. That definitely affected the bond prices. But again, typically stocks are more volatile than bonds. And like I said before, right, higher the risk, the higher the reward. So, again, if you have more stocks in your portfolio, you will typically see a lot more volatility, meaning a lot more ups and downs throughout the years. And typically, if you have more bonds or fixed income investments in your overall portfolio, you won't see as much of those ups and downs. But you will still see a little bit of a return there, depending on what the dividend or coupon rate is, or whatever that's paying you on a monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, or annual basis, right? So like I said before, right, usually you start off a little bit more aggressively, and then over time, and you're working on your accumulation, again, higher risk, higher reward. And over time, once you do accumulate all that, the goal then is to maintain what you got and live off of what you have, because this is your retirement savings, right? So then we have to have an investment strategy to maintain whatever you've accumulated, and how do we do that, right? So we look at allocations, for that as well. And again, like I said, allocations, it's not just stocks and bonds. There's a whole bunch of strategies that are out there that can be used to accomplish your desired outcome. Like I said, it just depends on your particular risk tolerance, the reality of the investment world, your time horizon, and then of course, from there we just work from there to do our best to make sure your financial goal is accomplished. And then, of course, if we have some excess, we can definitely talk about what do we want to do with that? Charitable giving, pass it down to the next generation. It's whatever the clients want to do.
Right. So let's talk about the changes in interest rates and how it affects investments, particularly in bonds and real estate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when interest rates go up, and again, this is in general, right? But when interest rates go up, prices are supposed to go down, and that's in real estate and bonds. And then when interest rates go down, prices go back up, right? So again, if you have a bond that's paying 5%, in the market rate right now is at 4%, you can actually your bond that you own at 5% is worth more, right? Because the rate's a little lower, so that price is a little higher, and of course vice versa. And like I said, in real estate, that's how it's supposed to work as well. But again, I'm not a real estate expert, but I know those of us in California are looking at these and saying, what the heck is going on? Why aren't these prices going anywhere? So again, I'm not a real estate expert, but that is effectively how the real estate market is supposed to work. But I know here in California, we have a little bit of an inventory challenge that we're hopefully going to do our best to remedy here. But like I said, that's effectively how it is supposed to work. That's how it typically has worked in the past. So that's the relationship between interest rates and bonds and real estate.
Perfect. So, of course, after you said that, I have to ask you if you can explain the benefits and risks of investing in alternative assets, such as cryptocurrencies or real estate investment trusts.
Sure. So again, there's risks in all investments that are out there. For a particular person, there might be a particular place for those types of investments in their portfolio. It really just depends on ultimately how aggressive the client wants to be. And, for some of those, right, it just depends on how much, you're willing to see that volatility, right? If you're okay with seeing things, significantly go down or significantly increase, again, higher risk, higher reward. But like I said before, there's risk in every investment that you put your money in. So that's not just the alternative investments. That's just in the investment world in general. And that asset allocation piece is how we kind of mitigate, or we do our best to mitigate the risk associated with investing moving forward.
Wow. Okay. So, can you provide some insights into the importance of having an emergency fund and how much should be saved? What does that look like?
Yeah. So my typical guidance for my clients, I like to tell them, 3 to 6 months on the emergency fund. And that 3 to 6 months is of income, not living expenses. That way you don't have to drastically change your lifestyle and, eat beans and top ramen or, whatever the cheapest thing is at the store. And I like to use this analogy here. So, a lot of people always ask, what's the purpose of emergency fund, or why even have an emergency fund? And if you're making Thanksgiving, we just had the holidays. So if you're making Thanksgiving turkey, right, and it takes 4 hours, and you have the whole family over, all your friends, and you put that turkey in the oven, and then your friends and guests are saying, "I'm hungry now," and it's only been an hour, and you take that turkey out, start carving it up, and feeding it to people. People are going to get sick, and it's not going to be good, right? But that's also why we have the appetizers out and around the chips and salsa or whatever you're eating for your appetizers that are out there. Those appetizers kind of act as that first line of defense or that emergency fund to hold people over. That way, once you get into the turkey, we know it's cooked. It's ready to go. And that turkey would be your long-term investment goal, or your long-term savings, or your retirement accounts, whatever your overall goal is, that would be that turkey.
I love it. And so, of course, speaking about the holidays, Christmas just went by. Please talk about how we can effectively manage debt and create a plan for debt repayment.
Yeah, so that's definitely and always a fun one, right? A lot of people like to rack up the debt during the holidays. So let me just start with number one: save throughout the year to then buy these presents for the holidays, or you do your charitable giving. Don't just do it from the paycheck that you have. That way, it's not as hard on your wallet. Another thing too, when it comes to credit cards, I know most of us are and when I say most of us, I'm just talking about people in general, but most of us are buying things and using the credit card, right? So pay your credit card off instantly if you can, right? Maintain a budget where you know how much money you have coming in, specific percentages for specific things, right? So your overhead, and again, this might be challenging for some in California, but your overhead, should be somewhere around 30% of your gross income. Your living expense. But if you're swiping your credit card and you tend to go, over, or you're just running up your tab, one fun thing that you can actually do is call your credit card company and ask them to lower the interest rate. Sometimes they'll do it, sometimes they won't. But worst thing they could do is say no, right?
I love that. And with that said, it's time. Can you believe it, Malik? It's already time. Please tell
Wow.
us how our audience can connect with you quickly.
Sure, yeah. So you can find, my website, MalloryWealthManagement.com. Like I said, I have that what is your risk number button on there. LinkedIn, you can find me, Malik Mallory. Facebook business page, Mallory Wealth Management. Message me, say hi. The office line, 909-972-0148. You'll find that on the website as well. Give us a call if you have any questions in particular to you. Want to talk a little bit more about your financial plan, or just want to make sure that your financial house is in order, give us a call.
Perfect. All right, everybody listening, don't forget to look for us on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. Don't miss my interview with Aquanetta Warren, elected as mayor in December 2010 and reelected and now on her fourth term. Mayor Warren focuses her administration on bolstering economic development, creating educational opportunities, and advocating for a healthier community. Next week, we will have Megan Barajas and John Chapman. Megan Barajas is the Inland Empire Regional Vice President for the Hospital Association of Southern California. HASC is a nonprofit regional trade association dedicated to effectively advancing the interests of hospitals in Los Angeles, Orange, Riverside, San Bernardino, and Ventura's counties. Mr. Chapman joined San Antonio Regional Hospital as Chief Operating Officer in October 2018 and was appointed President and Chief Executive Officer in May 2020. He is a microbiologist by training and previously served as Chief Operations Administrative Officer at Highland Hospital Park in Oakland, California. We will see you all next week. You do not want to miss it.